we have another incredible match coming up. There's a little player from Korea called Nestea. He's only won about 3 GSLs, I think. He's pretty good, and I get to watch him play today, which makes me really excited. And behind the stage is also his opponent, who we've seen once today, but we can still give him a big round of applause or yell at your monitor if you're at home, e.g. Puma. And his opponent, the king of Zerg, possibly the sexiest human being who's ever walked planet Earth, LG IEM Nestea. Shake hands. Yeah. Good luck, have fun. And Day 9 and Kaleros, have fun with this one.
Thank you very much, Jared. We shall indeed, because, hey, I've been looking forward to some of these games.
Yeah. I mean, Nestea's actually been struggling to put up a lot of, well, I say struggling to put up results, but the problem is when you start winning GSLs multiple times in a row, people have a certain level of expectation for you, and Nestea hasn't been delivering close to that. But then again, neither has Puma. I would honestly have to give the favor to Nestea in this series.
Yeah, I would agree. It's very hard to kind of debate that. I mean, Nestea is Nestea. I mean, on any given day, he can beat any given player on Earth. It's pretty...
on any given settings, on any given computer, he's fine.
Yeah.
Nestea, I mean, I think what's so strong about his style is that he both does that huge drone-heavy macro play, but he never seems to overreact to aggression. That seems to be what always throws people off. You know, you do the bunker rush, and they bring 8 drones when they only had to bring 4. He always brings just the right amount.
Yeah. He has a very, very good mentality of reading the game when he needs to. And because of that, you know, it's hard to really prepare specific strategies for Nestea to really find the holes in his play, because they don't really exist too much.
Yeah, he plays a sort of style that it says you have to come at me in a direct, straight front-on fashion, and that's what we've sort of seen out of him in a lot of his recent matches. And Puma is going to be his opponent, who we got the chance to see play a little bit earlier today, and it looked a little bit flimsy.
Yeah, it wasn't looking too on the ball with it. There was 1 or 2 gaps in it that were, you know, a little bit exploitable by his opponent, and from there, didn't really kind of pan out too well. But I mean, it panned out all right. He's here, right?
He's in the finals of the winner's bracket. Whoever ends up winning this match advances on to group stage play tomorrow.
So, we should be checking out good Sir Nestea in just a little bit. But Puma, I actually haven't seen his TVZ for quite a while, I must admit. Did we watch TVZ just before, or was it TVP?
I mean, the TVZ that we saw of Puma earlier today,
other than that,
it makes me wonder, actually, if it was the jet lag that Bomber was even talking a little bit about.
Yeah.
That's coming up into play today.
Well, I mean, it seemed like Bomber himself in 1 or 2 of those earlier games was suffering a little bit from it. But, you know, stabilizing now and getting things going, as we do have Nestea here showing here. They're actually wearing the black shirt from IEM, which they're normally wearing the white one. But anyway, I like the color differences. It's all good.
On the map, Atlantis spaceship spawning in the north position. We have LGIM's Nestea. His teammate MVP already advanced onto group stage play. He's hoping to do the same.
Yes, indeed. And down to the bottom left-hand corner, we do have EG Puma RC going to be spawning here as our blue Terran, looking to upset maybe a few fans here today.
I honestly think that the game that we saw of Puma against Dark Force on this map, Puma looked the strongest. On that first game on Ohana, it was a little bit of a bumpy mid-game where there was a lot of just straight, as you were saying, conveyor belt Terran style, just rallying units in and killing them off one at a time. Nestea feeling good. Looks like a little burrow-unburrow action. Puma's looking for some way to expend that APM. He's going to be going for the straight early expo first.
Nicely done that. But yeah, I mean, coming back to the map that we saw against Dark Force with Puma here, he really was able to play to the map very well. He was expanding to that third whilst attacking down that path as well. He was gearing up to take his fourth down exactly the same path. So again, you know, you normally see players ending up just expanding down to this very southern position third, and it normally doesn't. It wouldn't work out as well if you were being as aggressive as Puma was in that game. So he likes the style of this. Oh, hey, nice.
Wow, what a play from Nestea.
Has he even scouted?
He has not scouted anything. This is a straight metagame play. This is why Nestea is just the best of the best. Nestea just basically saying, you know what, if you think you're going to get away with an early orbital command, look at this. It must be the most reassuring feeling in the world where you're thinking, oh my god, I got away with this early double hatchery play.
Wow. That's so awesome. I love double hatchery before spawning pool. It's just so greedy, but so good once it pays off. It's fantastic for Nestea. But Puma might end up scouting out the third hatchery very, very quickly, and he might just add on a third command center very quickly in his base as a macro command center. We don't know for yet, as he hasn't been able to make any scouting ventures out onto the map. But when he does, that might come to fruition. You know, honestly, with this build that we're seeing out of Puma, this is going to be one of the most comfortable builds against this early third hatch. Again, assuming you scout it, just due to the fact that you don't really get that fast of Hellions and this fast an expansion unless you do this exact build. At the same time, though, the only real follow-up you have in Puma's position is to go for a third command center. You could technically add on 2 more barracks right around now and get ready for a follow-up push, perhaps a Marauder Hellion push, but it still don't like it nearly as much as this command center. And there it is going down. A very, very typical play from Puma. Yep. And as such, still doesn't really care too much about the scouting for now. Just going to chill out back in his base, do his own thing. And, I mean, Nestea in the past has been able to bring out some, little cheesy shenaniganry, but I mean, the Nestea of today doesn't really do that as much. It's just more the very, very straight-up macro, more just going into that big play. And he has the mechanics to do it, but so does Puma to keep up. Now, hopefully he's overcome the slight flaws that he was experiencing during that series with Dark Force, because this is potentially another level up from there. There's the double extractor going down. Nestea honestly looks like he's playing a Zerg versus Protoss. The double gas that goes down at 6 minutes. There's the very early Roach Warren to help deal with the Warp Gate research that will be coming soon. Oh, wait, there's Hellions. Okay. Well, this is exactly what Nestea is expecting. A little bit of a flub to have 2 Zerglings there in the middle. That's 2 units lost instead of the potential 1. And yeah, wow, going straight for the Banshee follow-up. No cloak at all. Absolutely impossible to do that with this build order Puma did. Yeah, and with that command center finishing up, turning that into an orbital command, he will be able to begin a very, very nice economy stable play on these 2 bases for now. Now we have 6 Zerglings on the way to be able to deal with any kind of pokes in and around, as well as that Spine Crawler going down at the front here for Nestea. And from there on, just adding on a few Roaches as well, just to bolster himself against those Roaches. I like the sprinkling of Roaches. It's just a dab. Yeah, just a kiss of Roaches on this map. Not going to be doing anything too extreme. But what is Nestea's tech follow-up? He still hasn't gotten a layer up yet. Absolutely needs to do that at some point. Have you seen this evolution chamber placement? Okay. Right in the third, just here to be able to block off the back of that mineral line. Just a little bit of an escape route there for those Hellions to be able to push in and out there. That's really cool by an ST, actually, needing those evolution chambers anyway eventually, and as such being able to put them in very nice, Sim City placements. Nestea constructing those spore crawlers as expected. Likewise, Puma, given the fact that he has total control over the map, he's bought himself all the time he needs with these Hellions and these Banshees in the middle. Was a good thing to do at that time, get those 1-1 upgrades. But Puma, interestingly, has not even begun to do anything with his factory tech, has just now started to flood those barracks, and is going straight for the ever-so-greedy center expansion right away. Liking it, he can mount those attacks down that path and then to be able to defend that very, very nicely, like we saw in that game against Dark Force. Meanwhile, Nestea is spreading his creep very aggressively in an interesting path right around behind those 3rd locations, or 4th locations, depending on which ones you take first. But I love that Puma is keeping his Banshees with their Hellions to be able to poke forwards here. It creates a really horrible situation to deal with. Do I keep my Queens there to take a lot of damage from the Hellions as well, or do I try and deal with the Hellions with just Roaches, but they're taking a lot of damage from the Banshees? It's a difficult thing to deal with.
Hellion Banshee is just so effective at this early harassment, and there the Zerglings darting forward, and I think they know exactly where they're going. Oh, yes, immediately dart towards that expansion, and Puma's going to have to go ahead and lift. Nestea doesn't care that he's under all that Hellion Banshee pressure. He is not going to let that happen, and whoops, 2 more sacrificial SCVs show up. One of them succeeds in sacrificing himself. Zerglings are going to run right up into the main base, get blocked down, but still are going to get a good witness of the important aspects of what Puma's doing.
Yeah, not too much variation from the normal standard player that we're seeing from Puma here. I'm assuming you saw the double. Oh, I just saw 1 engineering bay. But only just starting now that 2-2 there. That's going up and getting going. Meanwhile, though, actually waning slightly here, Nestea on that 1-1. A little bit behind there, but not too much. And for now, with that Spire and Baneling Nest on the way, 10 more Zerglings in production. He is getting quite aggressive.
What's really interesting to see Nestea doing this big Mutaling style. I mean, so often people are talking about, oh my gosh, I want to grow up and be like Stefano and be all awesome and go my Zergling Infester route, but that sort of play, ooh, wow, Zerglings managed to find another nice juicy target there.
A little pocket of Marines, a little Marine vein there as that gets nibbled away at and picked out of the wall. And for now, Nestea going to push in at this 3rd location once again, just leading with 3 roaches actually to be able to see exactly what's going on. And those Zerglings going to swing around to catch these Hellions.
Ooh, a nice play, but there are 2 medevacs there, and it looks like Puma doesn't pick up anything. He's going to end up losing all the Hellions. Map control for Puma suddenly has evaporated right as 13 Mutalisks are in production for Nestea. And there's the target fire on those initially on the SCVs, but then on the building. A little over-ambitious.
Yeah, meanwhile, we actually only have the 1 missile turret in this 3rd. Puma doesn't actually have any missile turrets in his main on natural, so once these Mutalisks hit, they could do a substantial amount of damage here, and Puma really doesn't have too much of an answer, but considering he only has really 28 Marines, but they're just chilling out in the front right now.
I mean, ordinarily, given everything that's gone on, you would expect a player to get his Spire Tech up around 14 minutes. That's the big time stamp that you'd be looking for in this spot. But you got to remember, Nestea went hatch, hatch, pool, so he's playing at a little bit of an accelerated pace. And here Nestea goes right into the main. Puma with his incredible instantaneous reactions. Absolutely not going to be enough.
Yeah, fantastic pulling those guys away, and for now he's just going to try and demolish what he can in the main.
Oh no, oh!
If he can pick these off, that would be pretty brutal as well. Finishing that 2-2 is very, very important. And look, he's even moving the Mutalist back just to be able to get out of range once those Marines come.
The most painful thing, losing it seconds before that 2-2 is done.
And doesn't get the second one. Obviously, those Marines zoning him out quite nicely there. There was a little bit of indecision for Puma at the very, very front as Zerglings come in to try and deal with this where they can. Those Banelings, if the Zerglings are able to get a good surround here, the Banelings could connect quite easily. And there we go, he's trying to pin them in place, but the Marines are able to get away just barely there. And
a series of multi-pronged attacks as Puma did perform a drop in the main base.
Yeah.
It got largely squashed by this really nice defensive structure positioning. And now we see the Marines in the middle of the map trying to go up against slow Banelings. They're going to have speed really soon, and looks like an unusually wasteful move by Nestea, trying to kill off everything that he can with this Ling Muta Baneling play, but still happily charging forward, trying to do maximum damage.
Yeah, the Marines shredding those Mutalisks up quite nicely there. Meanwhile, we did have the double Banshee play over in that 3rd location, actually kill off my favorite evolution chamber of all time, and as such, now we're just going to continue going to work, but the Spore Crawler will clean that up.
Looks like a kind of a crazy, hectic series of battle with the drop in the main, the attack at the center expo, the right position being assaulted by this Banshee and taking some substantial damage. And it looks like as everything's kind of gone through the shakedown, I'd actually give Puma a little bit of the edge here. He just is in a slightly more comfortable position. He's adding on a lot more barracks in kind of a vulnerable spot, but he's just found himself, as you would say, in an Overlord vein. Nestea, not quite supply block, but may as well be. Another fleet of Overlords just marching out to be sacrificed.
Dem Overlord's making him rich as he's supply blocked right now, and ST is not really doing too much in terms of that production. And with that 2-2, well, plus two weapons going down for the Marines and the mech, that means he's going to have some very, very nice upgrades going up against Nestea right now. And he's sending out another medevac to the top. No, actually, just the bottom here. I thought that dot up was the top was a medevac, but it's in fact a Viking. And getting that hive morphed in as well. So
right now it looks like with the extra gas you have as Puma, you can't do too much interesting, but Zerg is going to be feeling really happy now that he's able to have this rich Vespene gas geysers, these 2 more in the middle. You're essentially on around 10 geysers with that rich gas geyser underneath your arsenal, and now we see that the Hive Tech is wrapping up for Nestea. He's going to be getting up his Hive Tech, but oh, Puma continuing to do these annoying little drops.
Yep, killing off the Queen. Very, very nicely done there. And he's actually going to be able to get the hatchery by the looks of things. If these Zerglings aren't able to get back in time, this is going to be rather close, but it will end up dying.
There it ends up falling down. This is exactly what Puma wanted. Not only did he kill off the expansion, but he also pulled all those units back, meaning, hey, it looks like I have an opportunity to do a push right now. That level 2 upgrade almost done, so that means Puma is starting to get back on track to 3-3, but wow, amazingly, look at how behind the upgrades are for Nestea.
Not too quickly there at all, and also he's getting that Great Aspire up as well as the Ultimus Cavern here as well, so for now he's going to have a nice little bit of tech out, but is he going to be able to make much use of it? He certainly has a pretty good income to be able to do so, but it was a little bit stifled after losing that hatchery.
Yeah, at this position, Nestea is going to continue to try to be as aggressive as possible with this Ling Baneling Muta, almost to the point that looks incorrect. Oh, speaking of incorrect, Puma just completely smacked out a whole pack of Mutas.
Too true. Zerglings actually moving into the third base here of Puma. They're going to be able to shred up some of these SCVs pretty quickly. Currently getting 20 worker kills, but meanwhile the army of Puma, ever relentless, just going to continue marching forwards towards Nestea here, and Nestea's fort itself could be under a little bit of fire in just a second.
And there Puma continuing to unload. I mean, Nestea was in such a good position for so long. Now that his Hive Tech's up, he's looking for some opportunity to start morphing into Broodlords, and there they are. Gosh, I mean, Puma's already stepped into the big attack moment right before that Hive Tech got kicked into high gear.
Yeah, those Broodlords need to be out pretty quickly to be able to shut this down. Meanwhile, we have a few Marines stepping up once again to be able to take out the third here, which is very, very important in itself. And just continuing to really restrict how much Nestea can really bring in right now. And he's still powering out so many upgrades and even transferring himself into those all-important Vikings here to be able to deal with that Broodlord transition that I believe he has seen, yes.
Puma does lift up. Broodlords continue to be constructed, but I mean, Puma's going to be feeling great. As long as Puma's on the offensive, what can you do with Broodlords? This is not a map where Broodlords really work out very well unless you have a ton of defensive structures back home. I mean, you can't both defend with Broodlords and attack on a map as big as Atlantis Spaceship, and there, again, that expansion goes down. And here, this big force of Baneling Infestor rolling around to the backside. Where are they going? These 3 queens out in the middle of nowhere.
Meanwhile, we had some 3 Broodlords actually being able to be killed off here as he even gets a 4th. Somehow these Marines were able to just stretch across this barrier and kill off 4 Broodlords. And Baneling's here trying to sweep in, not going to be able to get those connections.
And there's a good game. I mean,
wow.
Puma able to hold on despite everything that went on in the early game. It seems like the later the game goes, the better Puma's decision-making becomes, and he's just started to position all of his units in such a nice way.
It was going for those Broodlords there was risk involved because, you know, the Broodlords just move back a little quicker and then you can't get to them and the remaining Broodlings down on that position and you lose just a lot of free Marines. But he actually just went in there and killed off 4 Broodlords with a very, very nice little snipe. So really well done. Most players would not have taken advantage of that very, very interesting position.
So that means Puma's now taking the series up 1-0. 1 game away from advancing to the final group stages.
Yes.
That will be beginning tomorrow. In terms of adjustments that, you know, Nestea I think needs to be looking for to go up against Puma, I mean, there seemed to be kind of an odd juncture between this mid-game of Ling, Baneling, Muta that was doing so effectively, it was doing so well, and then that tech up to Infestor and eventually Hive, where all the tech was coming. But suddenly there were literally seemingly no units anywhere on the map for Nestea. It is kind of an awkward map, Atlantis Spaceship, for that transition, but it's still important enough that Puma can continue to exploit it again and again and again. Something as simple as 1 medevac shouldn't just be that disruptive.
I think also from Nestea's point of view, you know, I'm not a pro player, so I can't really speak in definites or anything like that. But it seemed as if there was a lot of hesitation in his mid-game engagements, as well as obviously the longevity of his Mutalisk was just not as pristine as some other Zergs that you end up seeing with their Mutalisk control. So two aspects that could maybe have helped Nestea there. There was never really some kind of... He was able to kind of shark in with a few Zerglings and get small pockets of Marines, but when it came to those big engagements, he was always moving backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards with the Banelings and Lings and never really fully committing.
The map now will be Ohana, which is kind of an interesting map, given that we saw... I think Puma's been looking better and better and better in his games throughout the day, but this is the first map where we saw Puma go up against Dark Force that looked quite shaky, to be honest, where there's just continue to throw units, and it was kind of doing some stuff, and then it started to get worse and worse. And wow, actually, I'm going to drop what I'm talking about with Puma. Man, that is not a happy-looking Nestea.
Not at all. He seems quite tired. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think all the Korean players came in very recently.
Yeah,
in fact, yesterday, I believe. So I think a lot of them are suffering from some pretty severe jet lag. Right now, let's see, what time is it here? It's 4:31 p.m., so... I think they're 7 hours ahead of where this is. So.
Yeah, something like that. So that is brutal for them in itself. But hey, anyway, let's jump into game number 2 here. As down to the bottom right-hand corner, we do have IEM Nestea going to be spawning as our blue Zerg.
And up in that top left corner, has been not really posting many good results lately, but has already demonstrated one incredible one by taking the game off Nestea today. It is going to be E.G. Puma.
So, Puma, I'm slightly shocked that he was able to take that first game. It was very, very well done by him. And again, it really does feel like Atlantis Spaceship is maybe Puma's map. He seems to perform extremely well on it, seems to have good decision-making, seems to know which attack paths to take.
I mean, just really nice things where he'd move out along the entrance to his center expansion, and then he'd cut down to that backdoor side and move up.
Yeah.
So the whole time he's covering that center expansion. It made it very hard for Nestea to move in. Whenever Nestea did try to move in, there were already units there, already the bunker there. Nestea immediately moving out. Puma, I just don't think really does anything other than one barracks expands, to be honest.
Well, it's worked out for him.
And there it looks like the barracks now is under construction. Nothing has been too revealed from Puma. He hasn't done any sort of gassing yet. Nestea is advancing forward to take his own expansion.
Yep, and for now, with that expansion going down, he is, I mean, there's probably, this being Ohana, it's not as big a map as Atlantis Spaceship is. So if he were ending up to go for some kind of very quick third hatchery like he did on that map, once again, that would be a bit of an overstep on a map with such short rush distances.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would be totally ballsy and kick-ass for him to do it, but it would probably even lose to a one-barracks bunker rush play. Puma now pulling back, pretty much putting his hand face up at this point. Nothing going to be too surprising or out of the ordinary.
Nope.
So I want to talk a little bit about that beautiful game. I don't know if you got the chance to see where the MVP was up against Targa's huge Roach Ling play, and MVP answered by transitioning to mech. And it just destroyed this this weird all-in follow-up from Targa.
Yeah.
It was a really, really cool sort of sight to see, and especially on a map that has these smaller rush distances, these smaller to control chokes. I really think that, I mean, I'm honestly rooting for mech at least one more time.
Well, I mean, whenever I'm going into mech, and whenever I see mech in this matchup, unless you're the very tip top of Terran, I don't feel it's too amazing. I'm a big fan of Thor Hellion. I think Thor Hellion's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to make it work on all the fronts that it needs to. The harassment initially, to be able to lead yourself nicely into the mech Thor Hellion composition, and then being able to really cover all your angles from there on.
I mean, as much as I love the mech play, it looks like we are seeing Puma get ready to do kind of a standard factory there. And again, this is the time when you would ordinarily want to sneak in another command center. This is when players really like to do this big old Hellion Banshee play. And there's the reactor now going down. Puma's not doing anything that would violate his usual style. Oh, yes, we're seeing something slightly different. 2 more barracks going down. Okay, let me tell you possibilities, and I want to talk about hopes.
Okay.
Possibilities could just go Marines and then swap this factory's reactor right here onto a starport, do something a little normal. But I hope we're going to see a really big Hellion Marauder play.
Hellion Marauder play would be very cool, but I haven't seen it for a long time. The last time I saw it was... Actually, no. I mean, MKP did do it on Teldry Malta once or twice, but I'm pretty sure I've seen him prior to that, later than that even. My apologies. So, could happen. I haven't seen... Is Puma an advocate of that kind of style? I really haven't seen it.
Generally don't see that, but what do you know? There's 2 tech labs going down a reactor. He might actually just be doing a fast in combat shield push. I mean, either way, Nestea is gearing up for an early 3rd base. So he will be doing something kind of similar to what he did in the last game, but there's the Marauder and there's the stem, so it's going to be a defensive difficulty for Nestea.
Yeah, the Hellion Marauder Marine can be very, very strong indeed. Nestea does have that 6 queen style out right now, and it's actually something that I haven't seen much of recently. And normally it's just 4 queens. Normally people will say, hey, well, if I don't get 6 queens, if I just go for the defense with 4, then I can get my 3rd a little quicker because 300 minerals, derby. But 4 queens on defensive, it's pretty good against this style at least, potentially.
But, you know, I love seeing Puma do this so much because this is exactly what is giving tons and tons of Zergs the real trouble. It's not this tiny, hesitant, make 4 Hellions and then just hope we can get to 3-3 Marines and win that way. No, it's just barreling down the front door. Right now, Puma has no 3rd. He has no extra geysers here. He doesn't have his engineering bays. And that's still okay so long as he does enough damage with this Hellion Marine Marauder push.
Nestea's playing this very nicely in terms of not transferring down to his 3rd too early. He knows the threat is there. He's spotted the Hellions. He's happy to just sit around on his 2 base. His hatchery's finished, that's fine. And from there, he's just continuing to get that creep spread going so that the defense can be a little bit more easy when he transfers to that 3rd. So I like that from Nestea.
Nestea has even spotted everything. He's seen these add-ons in the center of the main base. I don't even think that matters that much because Puma has incredible control, has a nice composition, some Marines, some Marauders. There's the 5 queens all beefy and up at the front, and he's still going to swing around and try to go for this 3rd base. Wow, he's extending way onto the creep.
Yeah, very, very much so. He needs to be able to try and somehow find himself a good position here. Stim is going to finish up in 4 seconds, so that is going to be very, very useful indeed. Nice transfuse there to be able to keep one of those queens alive. Not able to land a 2nd transfuse on that one, but another one does go down. Zerglings get decimated by this force here.
Puma.
With the reinforcements, oh my good god, he's doing so much damage at this point.
Oh, but it looks like Nestea gets just the amount of units he needs at the last second. And most of the queens don't even die, and oh my god.
Wow.
I was talking non-stop about how much I like this kind of play coming out of Terrans, and Puma's just sort of wishing I built a 3rd command center.
Dude, Nestea, man, he doesn't... Those holes that are normally there for other Zergs, they are not there for him. Puma was just shut down. And so much of that damage that he was dealing was completely negated by those transfuses. So he was killing all the queens like, yeah, it's gonna die, it's gonna die, it's gonna die, great. And he's, oh, he didn't die. Fantastic. So much kind of unit retention in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the big important aspects of the Queen. It operates unlike the other Zerg unit, where for the most part, it just takes damage and stays alive. It's not like Zerglings, where you're guaranteed to lose at least some number of them. It's very difficult to retain those smaller Zerg units, but now Nestea going into Nestea mode, building up all them drones, 15 coming out all at once, so he's going to pop over 70 drone count.
Yep, as we have the 1-1 finishing up in just a second for him. Meanwhile, only the +1 on the way. There we go. There's the 2nd engineering bay, as well as the armory going to be going down for him in just a second here to be able to get those upgrades out quickly that he will sorely need if this gets a little bit out of hand from the camp of Nestea. And he's mixing in quite a few more banelings here for a potential defense, or Well, I mean, he has centrifugal hooks on the way as well, so he could quite easily get aggressive if he wanted to.
I mean, right now Puma's in an awkward position because he still has not started tank production. So this means two things. For one, he can't do a big Doom push for quite some time. And for two, he has to do these kinds of pushes by ground. He absolutely must push out with some Marine Marauder. And look, again, he's still built more Hellions. He needs to do something with a mobile force, considering he can't get a strong immobile force for a long time. So he's scanning and picking off as much creep as he can, trying to get into these little awkward spots where he can lift up if he needs to. But right now, I mean, Nestea has 5 hatcheries out right now, is producing so many Zerglings.
Yep, and those Zerglings are looking to get a bit useful here as they do force Puma to retreat from this location up at the 4th. So, I mean, Nestea in this situation could quite easily establish that 4th and go to even more hatcheries here. But right now, Puma, like, waning in terms of an army supply. He doesn't really have that big an army against 113 Zerglings, day 9.
Gosh, Nestea is literally going only Zergling at this point in time. And there seems to be really nothing that Puma can do about it. Oh, it's no longer only Zerglings. No. He's even getting the ventral sacks. He's getting drops. He is not even going to wait for 2-2. It looks like he is just going to bust down the front door, and I think it is going to look beautiful.
May end up doing so indeed. Right now, there is a drop being geared up for Puma going down to the left-hand side. But wait a minute, he's just going to push straight into the front here, connecting with so many Banelings. And he's going to push. Wait a minute, they're actually bottled up there for just a second. All these SCVs coming off the line, trying to soak up what they can, but they get decimated as well.
And there, it looks like all the Banelings roll up. Puma's going to try to do the best control that he can. But with 5 hatcheries building only Zerglings, there is nothing that Puma can do. This is awesome to watch the style. So we're seeing that in Nestea. He responded to that early aggression by just swatting it aside with a bunch of rolly bombs.
Once a Zerg gets this far ahead and they like instinctively know they can just get away with this, it's ridiculous to watch and witness. So much damage. There you go.
There's a good game.
Wow. Nestea bringing it back. We are 1-1, guys.
And again, I think we got the chance to talk a little bit about this with Bomber, where what I like about Bomber is that he's a super normal player.
Yeah.
I don't mean he plays normal a lot. I mean the normal style he plays is a super version of what other people's normal style is. Sure, a lot of people go Ling Baneling, but Nestea figures out a way to get another hatchery in there before he has his layer tech started. So he's just getting 200 or so Zerglings long before Terrence really prepared for much of anything.
It's great to witness that just very, very Zergling-based style as well, because if you're as a Zerg player, if you're committing to that, you're saying, hey, well, actually, my decision-making in terms of engagements, my decision-making in terms of run-bys and, defensive posture are extremely strong, just with Zerglings alone. So, and he was going up against Hellions, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a hard, it's a bold play.
Yeah.
I mean, with something like a Mutalisk, you know where your edge comes from. It's by maneuvering the Mutalisks around and hitting the opponent where he's weak. With an Infestor, it's about getting the slightly better fungal or getting the slightly better infested Terran placement, whatever, those sort of things. But with Mass Zergling, where does your edge come from? It's all in just being able to identify long before anything ever happened with the engagement that your opponent just doesn't have a good answer to someone with a lot of Zerglings.
No, very, very true indeed. So we are going to be jumping onto this 3rd game in just a little bit here. And I'm very excited to see the conclusion of this. Puma and Nestea have been showing some pretty cool games here, gotta say.
Yeah, they've been getting better and better and better and better over time because I was just, I'm going to be honest, I was really worried about the condition of some of the Koreans earlier today. It's one of those, is the build order not complete or is it just a slump happening? What's going wrong? And it's apparently really just jet lag having a tremendous impact on day 1.
Yeah, no, you're entirely right. It's you yourself can talk of jet lag.
I have jet lag. I have jet lag right now.
I have never been able to properly experience jet lag, so I can't empathize, unfortunately.
You don't know why America has all these time zones, and in Europe everyone's just like, GMT +1's totally cool with us.
Same. Yeah, it's great.
What does UK do? We're not that. We're just 1 hour ahead. We're basically that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, man. it makes globe-trotting quite easy across the continent, I must admit.
Continent trotting.
Continent trotting, yes, of course.
So the map's Cloud Kingdom. We got the chance to see this in every single series thus far.
Yep.
TVZ on this map, talk to me a little bit about how Nestea is going to be playing it out.
I would love, absolutely adore to see him play exactly the same style he played in game number 2, with very, very high amounts of Zerglings, because Cloud Kingdom's a map where you have so many opportunities to kind of wiggle your way through with them Zerglings, and you know, go for those counter-attack potentials, which, hey, Nestea made it work. Well, I mean, he didn't even really go for counter-attacks in that game, but you can do it with that style, is what I'm getting at more.
Yeah, I think that's something important to note about Cloud Kingdom, is that with every way that you expand, you have to be thinking about how to wall off this other angle from a possible counterattack. I mean, obviously the fact that supply depots can burrow and all that helps a ton, but it's also the timing of when those wall-offs end up happening. The fact that before you're even moving towards your third, you either have to have tanks with siege mode or have to have some sort of clear wall-off, or you have to be in the process of mounting a big attack in order to just have it be safe at all.
Tis true, tis true. And, you know, many, many a time you see Terrans just walling off massive chunks of Cloud Kingdom. And it's really cool to watch as Nestea looking a bit tired once again, as he is gearing up for this third game.
You know, I know Nestea wants to win right here so badly. At the very least, we can just go back to his hotel room and get a full day's rest before the group stages begin tomorrow. Yeah,
it's the international tournaments and the foreign tournaments really are a marathon in comparison to the GSL format, which is far more cerebral and methodical, and, you know, just ironing out every single little detail that you can in each series that comes up. Here, you've really just got to have persistence, you've got to have stamina, and when you're dealing with, you know, like very, very long flights before that, I can only imagine that that can be quite difficult on it as well.
Kind of one of the interesting things to note about Nestea also is that he's quite old, 29. He was always a smart player in Brood War, but he never quite had the mechanics and the speed and the intense focus that you needed to be able to succeed there. And then in Starcraft 2, fortunately, things like infinite unit selection allows you to say things like 115 Zerglings, go over there. Happens instantly. Immediately reduces the amount of hand speed and focus you need to just move units from A to B. And as a result, we've seen him just had incredible success. His mind is apparently really, really nice for RTS games.
It's very, very true. And ladies and gents, as you can see on our lovely overlay down here, make sure to check out that HD pass at esl.tv/IEM. It's only €5 or $6. You can choose, actually, which one you want to pay, which is pretty cool itself. So go and check that out. €1 per day's worth of StarCraft, and I think day one is already standing up as a testament to how good and quality we're going to be having this amazing broadcast over the next couple of days.
And given what I was reading about the math education in America, it's $1.2 per day.
Thanks for that, Dana.
I mean, that's not that much money.
No, you're right.
if there was any good public transit in America, it would be less than that.
Yeah. Oh, maybe so.
In the bottom left corner, from Team Evil Geniuses, it is going to be Puma.
And up in the top right-hand corner, we do have our Blue Zerg, and he is going by the name of LGIM Nestea.
Yeah, Nestea is just looking so good in the last game. Just so incredibly good. And I just love the fact that he did the finishing blow with like 50 banelings. That is so cool.
Didn't even necessarily have to. He could have just sat back. I'll constrain you to 2 base, chill out, get up to 5 bases. No, instant death. Now, 50 banelings, go. Everything blows up. It was fantastic. I love that.
Now, in terms of Puma making an adjustment on this game, I think he's seen that he's either going to have to hit Nestea a lot harder with his attacks. Or just hit him a lot more gently. This is one of these weird things where styles actually tend to develop, where people are kind of doing these, I'll expand sort of and attack sort of here, and then it starts not being effective. So you either have to be a big attacker in this position or a big defender or a big expander. Puma very much so seems like the big expander type, and there we go. We do see all those SCVs queued up.
Woo. So command center first on the way in just a bit. Nestea, though, has drone scouted, so he's actually going to get a hunch about this. And look at this, the SCV actually moves out to the right-hand side of his base to be able to avoid being spotted by that drone, but the drone is on the way up to see him. Oh, no, he just barely didn't see it.
Oh, wow, this is a nice little maneuver by Puma. Now Nestea's going to be scouting everywhere.
Yeah, very much so. He's like, wait a minute, what's going on? As, hey, he wants to see it.
Oh, that is so unnerving. Puma, what a great job Puma did just there. Now we see the refinery going down. Now we see the barracks going down. I mean, you are going to be so confused as Nestea.
Yeah, and he didn't see the gas or anything like that, did he either?
Saw nothing at all.
Ah, that's very, very interesting. Looks like he's placing that barracks to be able to throw down a add-on on that straight away. Well, maybe after 1 or 2 Marines, but from there, just playing that macro style. I would like to see Puma in these past 2 games has kind of shown us, despite going for the 3rd command center very quickly, it's kind of a middle-of-the-road economy play. Whereas sometimes you will have Terrans that will say, hey, I want a 3rd command center and double engineering bay very, very quickly to be able to get those upgrades started. There is some risk in it, of course. Zergs, if they want to scout that out, then they can get aggressive if they desire. But going for that, some Terrans almost swear by that right now, going up against Zergs. So, we'll see.
Yeah, you know, I honestly think that if Puma starts to really go into some aggressive gear here, he's going to get beat down again. I mean, Puma's much stronger at the longer term play, and I would again credit Nestea for being stronger in those positions, but I think most generally what Nestea's really most talented at is just not freaking out when you throw stuff at him. Yeah. Even in this game, he hadn't scouted anything, and what did he do? He brought 1 extra drone and then immediately went back to mining and built no Zerglings at all. In fact, if you go to the unit counting station, he's only built 2 since his pool's been down, which is, I would honestly call basically 0. You're still not really committing at all to Zerglings. You're getting just enough to be able to scout the edges of the map.
After really seeing very little, although poking up and seeing the buildings that he saw, he can probably infer that there's like a command center down, you know, from there, just assume, well, you know, I'll just chill out and be safe for now and be go cool. So.
And again, there's really only one reasonable follow-up with this Hellion play, and that is building the early 3rd command center, but Puma, getting himself an extra early 3rd, and yep, Banshee's also coming up, so it looks like Puma's doing the exact same thing that we saw him do on Atlantis Spaceship.
Yep, and Puma has been spotted here with the 3rd command center by Nestea. He's keeping a Zergling there to be able to prevent a landing, potentially, if he does want to do so. And with the starport on the way here, switching that out for the Banshees, you know, again, the Hellion Banshee frontal push can be very, very strong, and I like to see it. Now, I hope Puma is able to make more happen than on Antigua Shipyard with it. I mean, he did kill quite a bit, but he could have maybe killed more. You know, there's always some openings on a big map like that, and we'll see if he's able to make it work here.
Nice answer by Nestea. Was having trouble spreading that creep tumor out, but man, Puma is on point picking those off. Trying to make sure that he has as much containment on Nestea as possible. The more he contains the creep spread, the stronger the Hellion Banshee crafts will be in general, and the stronger the Terran mid-game will be in general. So there's Puma. Looks like he's moving things around a little bit, starting to get his upgrades started on those barracks, and wow, again, engineering bays down before any basic units have been built. He's relying heavily on this Hellion Banshee play.
Awesome. I like the double engineering bay this quick. I think it's going to work a bit better than his just 1 engineering bay into engineering bay and then armory once one of the upgrades is halfway done is going to work. For now, Nestea just transferring those queens over to that 3rd location to be able to deny those Hellions from pushing in. And he does have the Roach Warren, and he's actually building 4 Roaches along with the Baneling nest. How many drones does he have? Oh, okay, 55. So, no crazy aggression going to be coming from him just yet on these 3 bases. Just stabilizing and keeping himself fine and dandy.
It's pretty remarkable that Puma went for a 3 base quite quickly. 3 early command centers. And yet he is more than 10 workers behind Nestea, because that is how good Nestea is at always landing those larva injects. Nestea apparently did feel forced to build those early roaches, but I just almost always hate getting those roaches early on unless you're going to be doing some kind of attacking with them. But another interesting choice, ventral sacks popping out for Nestea. What do you make of this, Kalaris?
Wow, actually, yeah, that is pretty cool. I guess maybe some very, very aggressive Roachling, Baneling drops we'll be seeing from Nestea here, which I haven't actually seen too much against Terran recently, actually. Just, I guess, maybe exploiting some kind of immobility weakness from him. But right now, I mean, there's already the 4th command center on the way and plenty more barracks being pumped out here with those reactors. So Marines are pretty good at dicing up those overlords if they get the opportunity to, but you've still got to be really careful of those Baneling drops.
A phenomenal reaction by Puma down at that bottom expansion. Has not lost a single mule and still hasn't lost a single mule there. 2 Banshees at the front, just sitting, chilling, doing not much of anything. And this is interesting. Look at this. There's the Zerg missile attack upgrade from Nestea. You almost never, ever, ever see that upgrade go down.
The Pneumatide Carapace I felt was a little bit slower than it could have been, but I mean, yeah, it's going to work out well. He's going to have the potential to go for these drops very, very quickly. And as such, I mean, I don't think Puma is expecting drop play at all. This is the last thing on Puma's mind, I think, right now. In comparison to what Nestea could be doing off the back of the previous 2 games, this is, I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, this is certainly going to be a surprise. I'm trying to figure out how the drop element's going to play out. He obviously has a whole bunch of roaches that can bust down the door at the front, but those Banshees are going to be pulling back, helping to deal with them pretty nicely.
I like these overlords that are already loaded up. The Pneumatized Carapace only just kicks in there, so he's going to be moving across the map very, very rapidly.
Really going to be going for that carpet bombing. We do see that there's 2 queens there. That makes sense. He can unload and immediately begin spreading creep tumors in the main of Puma, but right now Puma's defense is quite good.
Yeah, he's getting that siege tech up, that all-important siege tech, to be honest, depending on how well he positions those siege tanks in comparison to how the units get dropped near those siege tanks. But he needs that damage as quickly as possible here, and actually, well, this is going to be very scary. Bringing those queens along, it's going to be very, very interesting.
14 roaches now in production. Puma has pulled back, it looks like, absolutely everything into the main base, and oh my god. Couldn't be more ready. There goes 1 Overlord, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my god, the Banelings are starting to unload. And now Puma is on the retreat. Nestea has just lost an astounding amount of Banelings, but my god, it was all worth it. Look at the number of workers that were killed, 18 in 1 blast.
Yeah, but he's having supply blocks his opponent. I liked the defensive bunkers positioned here by Puma on the high ground. That was really a lovely addition there. But for now, Nestea, he's not done yet. He is still going to go for this with even more drops, maybe over at the 3rd location.
Yeah, right now, given the fact that everything's gone so poorly, Nestea has to take another expansion. He must. That's the only way he's going to be able to help recoup some of these losses. There's the other stem. And it looks like it's going to be another vulnerable Overlord getting taken down. And oh my god, the supply block that Nestea is going to feel. Oh man, now all the roaches unload. We see Puma trying to deal some damage to it, having some problems because those roaches actually are quite damage dealing now that they have that plus upgrade, especially able to deal with Marines a little bit more easily. Puma, though, with this Banshee, an endless little siphon on the health of those roaches.
Nestea, realizing that this is done and dusted, proceeds to produce 21 drones at the same time, going up to 70-some drones here in just a second. But he still has to be kind of mindful of some kind of potential counterattack, especially at that 4th location. It might be a little bit vulnerable just to pure roaches here.
Well, it looks like Puma's continuing to drop everything. Nestea hasn't even loaded units into gas at this point. And Puma's going to continue to try to be aggressive, and this is the same thing that got him in trouble against Dark Force.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Dark Force eventually was able to really kind of overrun that situation, which is not very useful for Puma. But I mean, he killed so many Overlords that he had to recoup those losses, and because of that, well, actually, he has a quite nice bank here. Maybe it was all lava limiting, as he doesn't have too much left over.
And now finally the medevac in the main dies, but there's a medevac at the 3rd doing gigantic damage. The Banshee is there to join into the action, and Puma has just killed off an astounding number of those drones. What a win this could be for Puma if he manages to take down Nestea.
Yeah, too true. Again, those bunkers, I mean, technically there was a slight element of luck where the Banelings ended up connecting during that initial drop. If they'd have connected with the Marines instantly, well then, yeah, a lot of his force would have died and he wouldn't have lost as many Overlords. But in the end, they connected with a lot of Marauders and tanks, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. But he's now 100 supply almost up on Nestea. This is really, really nice for Puma.
And now it looks like it's going to be an orbital command also coming up for Puma as he's taking his 4th base. Nestea can't even puke with the Overlord in the right position. I mean, Puma is in complete and total control after that misstep attack from Nestea with a drop right at the start of the game. And Puma has to start sieging up immediately. And there the Banelings finish. It's the perfect time. Oh, see ya later, Banelings. Oh my God, that could not have been better.
GG. Oh my God. If those Banelings were able to get some connections, then yeah, Nestea would have been kind of back in it flying. But Puma knew that was his opponent's last hope. No reason to overstep your mark, no reason to take risks. Bring down your opponent from there on. And Puma, he qualifies.
I mean, this is going to be just such a happy moment for Puma. The fact that he's managed to get all the way up into the group stages again. I mean, he's been such a finals day regular at NASLs, MLGs, and now here at IEM, he's going to be able to advance on to day number 2.
Well,
he will be in the group stages.
He had a fantastic run during Season 6 as well. Puma, he's an IEM veteran in essence. I mean, as are a lot of the players here. I actually don't think we've seen Nestea ever compete in an Intel Extreme Masters before. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't normally participate in that many foreign tournaments, but the ones he has been doing recently haven't been amazing results, and that trend, I mean, it's kind of continuing here.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for that series, guys. Again, I was banking on Nestea to take the win.
Yeah, I really was too, but Puma has been looking better and better and better and better, and especially in that last game, that was just a great defense. I mean, there's no other way around it. He had a read, and there were already bunkers in the main base. Everything pre-positioned properly, everything stemmed. The only flub you could really point to is when the 2 Banelings popped out and killed 18 SEs immediately, but other than that, Puma had a flawless defense, and that helped him continue into an excellent follow-up, the excellent attack that allowed him to get into a good position.
Yep, too true. I believe we got an update in the sense that Real has defeated Yonghua 2-1.
Wow.
And as such will advance onto the group stage. So, Real coming out of that group, pretty impressive.
Bomber and Real will be the 2 advancing. Bly, disappointingly after his early successful run, did get eliminated by Yonghua in that 2nd group stage. That's where we saw Grubby and MVP just advance.
Yeah.
And here now we now know that Puma is going to be advancing on. Killer and Straylock are the ones that are waiting down in the lower bracket. They're battling it out to find out who will be going up against who.
That is going to be very, very interesting indeed. These groups, I mean, they're shaping up to be very, very interesting. I mean, there's obviously some people rising through, like MC, for example, who everyone would have really predicted to be able to attain that position in the winner bracket final there. But there's been so many upsets from the very word go today. Who would have thought that Naniwa would have been defeated in both round 1 of the winners and round 1 of the losers?
But not even by the players who ended up eventually making it out of the bracket either. And I mean, here we see in group number 4, a little bit of a preview of the match that's going to be coming up next. It will be MC versus 4GG.
That's going to be pretty good.
This is the motion that Kellaris has introduced me to. Yes, fine, good, yes. Bring me more good matches.
It's fantastic.
And I think the most interesting thing of all is that this is the open stage of the event.
Yes.
On Thursday and Friday is when the actual IEM Gamescom event officially kicks off with the group stages.
Yeah, and you can check out all of those tournament structures, all of the groups, all of the eventual brackets over at esl.iem/ over at esl.tv/IEM. There's a lot of acronyms going on.
Too true.
So do go check that out, guys, as we have a fantastic landing page there set up purely for your pleasure, purely for your ease. So I believe, are we going to be sending it over to good Sir Jarrett Kale?
We could very well be. let's go ahead and head up to the main stage. We can get an interview with our winner.
Give it up once more for EG's Puma. Our third player today to move on to the group stage out of the open bracket, an unbelievably difficult open bracket. Nestea is not out of it yet, and I have a feeling we're going to see him in the group stage. So all you Nestea fans, which I'm sure is all of you, don't be too heartbroken yet. We're going to cut to a super quick break before we get on to our next match, which, I mean, all these matches are exciting me a lot. I can't state this enough, but MC versus 4GG. Yeah, I hope it's a quick commercial. See you soon.